Hi, everybody. Welcome to this panel of some of your favorite authors. I'm Kelly Fireside. I'm hosting today's panel, and what we're doing today is we're going to be hearing each of our authors read one of their favorite scenes. So I think the title of our time this morning is Best Scenes. There's no theme. It's just whatever scene our authors really like from whatever their recent book is. Because we want to hear, we're here to hear these beautiful, wonderful stories. We're just going to dive right in, and I'm going to introduce first up here today, award-winning novelist Suzie Clarke. Yep. Hi, Suzie. Good to have you here. Please know, by the way, that we're being recorded. This is being recorded. So you'll be able to find this after the session is over. If you have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat box, and I'll do my best to get to those. But again, mostly today is about hearing from these great books and these great authors. So Suzie Clarke is an Ohio native and lives with her family in northwestern Ohio, where it's very cold right now. Suzie has a medical and business background. Before writing full-time, she worked in public health, helping families and women in all aspects of their lives. She grew up as a middle child, surrounded by brothers, which is why she loves a good laugh, being outside, and writing about strong women who know how to stand up for themselves. Her most recent novel, Western Blue, is her fifth book, published by Bold Strokes Books, and is a historic Western fiction, action, adventure romance set in Nevada in 1886. You can find her on the web at suzieclarke.com and on Facebook at suzie.clarke.1614. Suzie, introduce the book that you'll be reading from for us and dive right in. We can't wait to hear.
Okay, this is the book. It's called Western Blue. Hold on just one second here. There it is right there. Okay. And you said you did a really good job of saying everything about it, so that's good.
Okay. Please share your reading with us.
Okay, we ready to start now?
Yes.
All right. Well, I had a little trouble picking. It's great that we get to choose our favorite one, but I had a little trouble choosing it because I wanted to make sure that the audience enjoyed it. So I have chosen to do a part where hold on a second. In my quest to do everything right, I lost it. Okay, here we go. The whole purpose of this, the premise of this book is that Blue Hutchings, who is one of the main characters of the book, has been kicked out of her home, and she's forced to go to Nevada to get this rundown ranch that her dad left her. So she's struggling to make it work, and she's having all kinds of problems. So in this scene, she's, because of a area man who just absolutely hates her and wants her property and everything she has that she doesn't know, some things on the property that are very valuable. He decides he's going to make sure that no one will work for her. No cowboys will work for her. So in desperation, Blue advertises to hire women to be cowgirls. So this scene that I'm reading to you right here is one. She has several come, but this particular scene is when one of the potential ranch hands comes to her ranch to apply for a job. She says, and Blue is away at trying to find someone to build her bunkhouse, and her partner is there at the ranch with Blue's friend Martha, who came with her from Texas. So, and it starts off with Izza, and this is Izza's point of view. When Izza left the barn, she saw a young girl, no more than 10 or 11, standing by the porch. She was dressed in tattered pants and shirt and covered in dust. Izza couldn't tell if her face was tanned or just dirty. Her horse, an ebony mare with 2 white legs, appeared as travel-worn as she did. Isa approached. "How far you come?" Martha asked. 4 days' ride, ma'am. Is Miss Blue about? I'm in need of work. I'm sorry, I had this written out for you so I wouldn't have to keep turning pages. That's a long way for a job prospect, Martha said. I expect you're plumb wore out. It weren't too much trouble. Mostly I've been in a powerful hurry to get here. Hope the job's still ready and open. Blue isn't here right now, but we expect her back any time, Martha said. The girl crossed her feet, took her hat off, and looked down. Oh, she said, her disappointment evident. Hello, I'm Isa, Blue's partner. Why don't you come in and we'll talk? I'm Gertrude Tuttle. Gertie, that'd be fine, ma'am. She tied her horse to the rail and placed her well-used hat on the saddle horn. Gertie's stomach grumbled loudly as Isa guided her onto the porch. This is Martha, Isa said. Martha smiled and led the way into the house. Come in and get something to eat. Gertie nodded eagerly. I'd be mighty obliged. Martha pointed to one of the benches. Gertie slipped onto it. Isa poured herself a cup of coffee and sat on the opposite side of Gertie, while Martha fixed Gertie a plate of potatoes, green beans, and ham, then set it and a cup of coffee in front of her. Thank you, ma'am. That's awfully kind. Please call me Martha. She looked at Isa and tilted her head toward Gertie. Martha must have been just as taken with this young girl as Isa was. She was thin as a starving calf. Her dark hair, partially tied back with a red bandana, clung to the sides of her head. Her dirt-smudged face contrasted with her deep blue eyes. Her shirt, 2 sizes too big and ripped at one shoulder, was tied together with string where the buttons had been. Isa tried not to smile as she watched her barely come up for air as she ate with vigor. Martha handed her a napkin. After Gertie had devoured the last morsel, she wiped her mouth, then her face. She carefully laid the soiled napkin near her empty plate and picked up the cup of coffee. She had a strong odor of sweat and horse, and she'd certainly been in her clothes for more than one barn dance. She ducked her head when she found Isa watching her. I'm sorry, I ain't et in a while. Martha cringed. How long has it been? 2 days. I had a few coins, but I used them to buy feed for my horse. I figured I'd better arrive with a good mount. Isa felt an immediate bond to Gertie. She'd sacrificed her own needs for her animal and was concerned about being able to perform her work, and she was just a kid. She asked the pressing question she knew Martha wanted to know. How old are you? Gertie's eyes darted from Martha to Isa. I'm 14. Martha frowned. Honesty's important at this ranch. Gertie hung her head, then fixed her gaze on Martha. Sorry, I'm going on 12 before fall comes, but I can handle any work and won't stop till the job gets done. Martha slid onto the bench beside her. You're awfully young to be on your own. It don't matter none. I've been fending for myself since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. My pa got killed in the war. Then my ma got discouraged and run off with some damn banjo-playing son of a bitch. Martha put her hand to her mouth and turned her head. Isa bit her lip and tried not to laugh. It wasn't meant to be funny, but the way Gertie had said it made it sound like it had been an everyday occurrence that had caused her considerable amount of annoyance. Martha cleared her throat. Where are you from, child? Other side of the big lake. The big lake? Martha asked. Gertie pointed northwest. Yes, ma'am. Lake Bigler or Tahoe or whatever they're calling it. I heard it called different names. No one can seem to agree. Don't matter to me. I call it Lake Tahoe. I like the way it feels on my mouth when you say it. Kind of sings, don't you think? Martha nodded. Yes, it does. You're absolutely right. I like the way you talk, Martha. If Miss Blue hires me and I stick around these parts, would you teach me proper words? Ma taught me some learning, but it weren't much. Martha smiled. I'd be happy to, Gertie. This young girl, who seemed to have been robbed of her childhood, was a curious mixture of youth and experience, much too young to have gone through what many others didn't experience by the time they were 20, let alone 12. Yet here she sat in Blue's kitchen. Okay, that's the end of that one.
Oh, thanks, Suzie. Yay. Yay. Thank you for sharing that scene. That description of was it her clothes? Looked like it had been to more than a couple of barn dances. What a great image. So you could pick any scene from your book. What was it about that scene that made you want to share it with us today?
I think it was Gertie. Gertie is just such a wonderful character in this book. I just love her, and it's just really fun to learn about her and what she does. She's quite the character in the book, and she's so young, and it's just fun to learn about her.
That's fun. Thank you so much for sharing that story. Hopefully, we'll have some more questions after all the readings today. But we're going to jump to Gun. Gun Brooke lives in the countryside in Sweden with her 2 dogs. She's written more than 30 romance and sci-fi books for Bold Strokes. Wait, did I read that right? 30? Like
yes.
30? That's amazing. And she still loves creating characters and stories. Her latest romance, Limelight, came out last December and takes place in the talent show world. Gun, tell us about the scene you're going to read.
This scene is the first when the coaches are having their master classes with their different contenders. So this is Palmer Elliston is having her first or giving her first master class to her 3 contenders. The main one character being Libby, and then 2 others, Mona and Carl. And it's Libby's turn to sing, and she's picked In the Arms of an Angel by Sarah McLachlan. And so she starts to sing, and this is where the scene starts. And it's from Palmer's point of view. Libby started out low, much like the original artist, but with her own unique tone. Her eyelids appear heavy, and she didn't take her eyes off Palmer. When she reached the chorus, she motioned with her right hand and increased the intensity. It was as if she was conducting Palmer, which back in the day would have irked her enough to stop the session. Now Palmer followed, going from mezzo forte to forte, matching Libby as she gave the song new clothes without altering its soul. After the second verse and a second chorus, Libby slowed the song, apparently done with the demonstration and her intentions with it. Palmer let a finishing chord ring out. Fuck, Mona whispered from behind them, echoing Palmer's inner response. Scanning Libby's expression, Palmer noticed a hint of dazed expression on her face and recognized it for what it was. Libby was undoubtedly the type of performer who embraced a song, body and soul, if it spoke to her, and it might take such a person a few moments to regain their equilibrium. To give Libby time, and she confessed to herself, to allow herself a few moments to digest the performance, Palmer pivoted on the piano stool and looked at Mona and Carl. Well, Libby, you're killing it, Carl smiled broadly. That was awesome. You're going to be dangerous, aren't you? Mona stood, her hands on her hip, but with respect in her eyes, albeit clearly a tad reluctant. Thanks, Libby said and came closer. I'm not sure if it's a good idea to start with this one, or if an upbeat song is strategically smarter. Palmer turned back toward the piano and knew Libby's concern was warranted. Making the right song choice was crucial. It had to fit your voice, your persona, and your stage presence. Palmer nodded briskly. This week, the choice is yours alone. During the upcoming weeks, the coaches will weigh in, as will the guest coaches. I can make recommendations, but you get to choose the song this time. What do you think then? Libby leaned both elbows against the grand piano and didn't even blink as she focused on Palmer. It was like being interrogated by someone using persuasive methods. What was it about this woman and her damn intensity? Palmer had never heard Libby be anything but soft-spoken, but Talking with her was like having your clothes torn from your body. It was unnerving as hell. I think you can sing with the intensity you showed just now, and we'll play around with modulation. You will seriously increase your chance of remaining in the competition. With the right arrangement, it can be done. Palmer forced herself to speak succinctly and if in a friendly manner, knowing she couldn't forget the discreetly placed cameras around the room. Well, we're fucked, Mona said, making a full production of rolling her eyes. Then she smiled and walked up to Libby, slapping her on the back. But we can't roll over and play dead. We just have to know that the viewers will take a liking to just anyone. It could be any of us. She handed Palmer a piece of paper. My songs. I prefer Antihero by Taylor Swift. Palmer accepted the note, but it took her a few beats before she could gather herself long enough to look at it. All right. She found the sheet music on her tablet and tried to disregard how clumsy she felt. Libby rounded Mona and passed Palmer just as she shifted to place the tablet against the piano. Not sure how it happened, Palmer's left elbow hit Libby's hip, making her lose her grip of the tablet, which appeared to take flight. Libby moved quickly. She turned and grabbed the tablet in mid-flight, pressing it against her chest. Palmer saw how Libby's fast reaction threw her off balance. Waving her hand for support, Libby gasped, and for a moment, Palmer was sure she'd crash into the piano. She reached out, flung her arms around Libby's waist, and pulled to steady her. Libby wore torn jeans and a sleeveless plaid flannel shirt. Now the buttons flew across the piano keys where Palmer accidentally tore the well-worn shirt. Ending up half on Palmer's lap, Libby managed to steady herself against the piano, which released a nerve-wracking chord. Holy crap, are you all right? Mona stared at them, her dark brown eyes gigantic. Libby quickly pushed off Palmer, who in turn smoothed down her own silk shirt, attempting to look as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. All but one of the buttons in Libby's shirt were missing. A quick glance at the keys showed two of them in plain sight, and she was wearing only one quite see-through white bra. The tablet, and my sneakers got caught on the carpet. Libby sighed and then appeared to notice her wardrobe malfunction. Oh, shit. She held her shirt closed and groaned. I can't believe this. I'm really sorry. Palmer couldn't let Libby take all the blame as much as she would have preferred to. We collided, that's all. Do you have something else to wear with you? Just my jacket. Libby pointed to the leather jacket on the clothes rack. But that's all right. She unfastened the only surviving button and tied the shirt in a knot around her waist. This left her midsection bare and increased her sex appeal tenfold.
Well, that's a cliffhanger. What was it about that scene that just jumped out at you? This is the one I'd like to share.
Well, I think it sort of describes the characters quite well, I think, for the readers. And it has a bit of a funny twist to it because, I mean, we've all had mishaps. And also it showed that there is sort of a growing camaraderie between the ones that are actually competing against each other. And also, I think it showed a bit that Palmer does not know what to do with this girl. And so that was my hope anyway.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Limelight is available now. And Sandy Lowe is very helpfully putting links to the books that are being read from today in the chat box. So please be sure you check those out. We're going to jump to Joy. Joy leads a busy life when she isn't writing lesbian romance. She's babysitting one or two of her 6 grandsons, creating art or writing and illustrating children's books. Her passions include growing an insane number of fig trees. I'm super curious about what an insane number of fig trees is, because 2 sounds insane to me. Enjoys short walks on the beach because long walks tire her out, and making her friends and family laugh. She's written 9 books for Bold Strokes, and she begs you to buy them so she can afford to add to her fig tree collection. Joy, welcome to today. Tell us a little bit about what you're reading from today, and then just jump right in.
All right, I'm reading from Jen and Barrett, which actually came out in April of last year. Basically, Kelly James doesn't think much of herself, and it doesn't help that her girlfriend Paula doesn't treat her very well. Paula forces Kelly to give up a cat that she adopted 2 weeks ago. Logan, the hot bartender at Kelly's favorite bar, agrees to take the cat, named Bear. This is Kelly's first visit to see Bear and her first time at Logan's apartment. And I apologize for my voice. I'm at the tail end of the flu, and I can't seem to shake the stuffiness or the throat problems here. So we'll jump right in. If I can find my place. Okay. Hey there. Kelly stepped over a pair of sneakers by the side of the bed and sat down, running her hand over Bear's orange fur. I've missed you. I see you found him. Kelly jumped at the sound of Logan's voice. Sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. It's okay. I'm just a stupid wimp. Sorry. Don't do that, Logan said. Kelly started to get up. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have sat on the... No, sit. That's not what I mean. Don't put yourself down like that. You aren't stupid or a wimp. Kelly wasn't used to someone defending her from herself. She was at a loss for words. Okay, she finally managed to squeak out. She searched her brain for something else to say. Who are the figures on your dresser? Lame. This one, Logan picked up the female figure, is Captain Janeway from Star Trek Voyager, and this guy is Captain Picard. He was later promoted to Admiral. She shook her head. I know, I'm a nerd, I freely admit it. Hey, how come you get to call yourself a nerd, but I get in trouble for calling myself a wimp? That didn't seem right. Because a nerd isn't a bad thing. A wimp sounds so negative. You are anything but a wimp, or anything else negative for that matter. It was one thing for her friends who loved her to tell her she was wrong about herself, but here was someone who was practically a stranger telling her the same thing. Maybe there was something to this after all. You okay? Logan asked. Yes. Why? You just looked lost in your head there for a minute. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings. No, you didn't. I was just, no, never mind. Logan sat on the bed next to her, close to her, deliciously close, too close. Kelly found it hard to breathe. When Logan placed her hand on top of hers, Kelly thought she might just pass out from the intensity of it. Paula, I have Paula, she reminded herself. Stop feeling what you're feeling. Just what? Logan asked. Kelly had lost track of their conversation. What? You started to say something about being lost in your head and then stopped. I'd like to know what you were going to say. Kelly considered making something up, but the last thing she wanted to do was lie to Logan. Why are you so nice? She asked. Okay, you don't have to answer. I didn't mean to pry. Logan started to get up, but Kelly grabbed her hand and pulled her back down. Kelly stared into those beautiful green eyes. The sudden impulse to kiss Logan shocked her. I was going to say that my friends have been telling me that I don't think enough of myself. So you saying basically the same kind of thing, I don't know, kind of made me think maybe they're right. Kelly couldn't believe she had just shared that, but there was something about Logan, something beyond her beauty and her killer body, that made Kelly want to be close to her, to tell her things, to bare her soul. Thank you for telling me. I think your friends are right. I know I haven't known you long, but I think you're a great person. I'm getting the feeling you don't think the same. My mother had pounded it into my head since I was born that I'm a burden, a mistake. It's hard to get past that. She had known Rachel for a couple of years before she admitted these things to her, and she still hadn't told Marley much about her childhood. But here she was telling Logan. When I look in the mirror, all I see are the flaws, the problems, the person who isn't worth loving. Logan wrapped an arm around Kelly's shoulder. Oh, honey, your mother was so wrong. Kelly got lost in the comfort of Logan's closeness for several long beats. When she told these things to Paula, her girlfriend, her response has been, we've all got childhood shit. The fact that Logan called her honey didn't escape her attention either. How do you know? Kelly asked. Because I can tell. You're good people. I think being a bartender for so long has given me superpowers. She laughed. I can tell if someone is a good person or a schmuck before they even open their mouths. I can spot the cheaters, the honest people looking for a partner or a date, or the person just trying to get out of the house and away from their spouse for a while. Kelly tilted her head and looked at Logan out of the corner of her eyes. Really? Really? I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. And how did you know I was good people, as you put it? No one had ever told her that before. It's in your eyes. You're kind. And when you told me you walk dogs, I knew for sure. Only kind people would do something like that. You never see old grumpy people doing that job. It takes someone caring and gentle. You took Bear in when he needed a home, and you gave him up, even though I could tell it broke your heart. Because that what was best for your girlfriend. That takes love. Love. She'd always thought she loved Paula, but she was wondering if it was more desperation than true feelings. More than that, she was doubting Paula's love for her. She rarely said it anymore. In fact, Kelly couldn't remember the last time Paula had said those words. How come Paula couldn't be more like Logan? Then there would be no doubt of her feelings, or Kelly's feelings for her. Thank you for saying that. It's the truth. One thing you can always get from me is the truth. Honesty is important to me. There was a hint of sadness in her words. Kelly wasn't sure if she should ask why or not. I was engaged once, Logan went on. She cheated on me. Of course, with the cheating, there was plenty of lies. I promised myself I would never let myself be put in that position again. So yes, honesty is important to me. And relationships beyond friendship are not an option. Not anymore. Kelly wasn't sure why, but that revelation disappointed her. Not that she was looking to have a relationship other than friendship with Logan. Or was there a small part of her that was wishing that? No, that would just be stupid. Even if Logan was looking for a girlfriend, Kelly was sure she wouldn't fit the bill. She just wasn't on the same level, and she was sure she never would be.
Thank you, Joy. There are folks that are just weighing in the chat about how much they can relate to Kelly in that scene. But I'm wondering what was it about that scene that made you want to share it with us today?
It's the beginning of Kelly starting to realize that maybe she's not an awful person. She has a little bit more to offer, and it's Logan who's kind of giving her that idea, even though her friends have been telling her for a long time that she's worth it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's beautiful. One of our listeners wants to know if fig trees help with the flu.
You can't. It's not fig season, so they might if I had fresh figs. And if you've never eaten a fresh fig off of a tree, you don't know what you're missing. It's not a fig Newton. It's not the stuff you get at the stores, because those are picked way before they're ripe. I guarantee if you ate one, you'd be growing fig trees.
Thanks, Joy. Jen and Barrett is available now, and the link is in the chat box. Thank you for sharing. Tana Fireside, who is sitting beside me because we are co-authors and also partners in life. But today is about Tana. Tana loves setting the table for friends and family with fabulous food, delectable drinks, and interesting conversation. Over the past 4 years, Tana and her wife, amazing wife, Kelly, have circled the US at least 6 times in their RV. Now they are spending most of their time in their casita, which Tana designed, on a beach in Sonora, Mexico. Tana is co-author of 3 Bold Strokes books, Vintage and Vogue, Whiskey and Wine, and the newest, Spirits and Sirens, which will be released this spring. Tana, tell us about the book you're reading from, and then just dive right in.
Today, I'm reading from our most recent release, Whiskey and Wine. Whiskey and Wine is a contemporary small-town friends to lovers romance that takes place on the borderlands between Arizona and Mexico, really close, about 45 minutes from the border. And in this scene, Lace Reynolds is celebrating her birthday, and she's asked her best friend, Tessa Williams, to come to one of her favorite places on the planet, the Boot Hills Cemetery on the edge of town. I've been pumping myself up all day for this, but I'm not sure I'm ready for it. Lace grinned at her. It's safe, I promise. There's not a living soul within 15 miles of here. Tessa turned her eyes back to Lace. It's not the living souls I'm worried about. She shivered and held herself even tighter. Lace put an arm around her shoulders and gave her a squeeze. I've never seen any ghosts around here either. Well, that's a little comforting, I guess. Tessa sounded skeptical. Lace took her by the elbow. Come on, let me give you a tour. The tour? Tessa moved closer to Lace and leaned up against her shoulder. You mean you want me to walk around with you? Lace laughed. You're killing me, Tess. But a shiver shook Tessa so hard, Lace could feel it, and Lace took a step back so she could look into her eyes. Tessa, are you really scared? You're like the bravest person I know. Tessa tilted her head and looked at Lace sideways. Am I, though? I'm not as fearless as you think. Clearly, the last place on earth Tessa wanted to be was in an old graveyard under a full moon in the middle of the night. And yet there she was, because it was Lace's birthday weekend, and that's where Lace asked her to be. Because Lace asked. A lock of light brown hair, which had fallen out from under that silly hat, hung down onto Tessa's cheek. Instinctively, Lace reached up and brushed it back behind her ear. When Lace's fingers touched her cheek, Tessa's head snapped up, and suddenly Lace couldn't see anything except Tessa's eyes, which were a swirl of greens and blues. Lace lost track of where she was for a minute. Tessa reached down for the hand that was holding her elbow, Lace's hand, and gave it back to her. That woke Lace up real quick. This was Tessa, not a 3-month girlfriend, not a date. This was Tessa, her movie buddy, business brainstorm partner, the person who made her laugh at herself, the one who always was on the other end of the phone, who used way too many emojis, her best friend. I'm going to get you a blanket. She grabbed one from the pile she had brought from home and held it out for Tessa to take. Put this around your shoulders. I want to show you something. Tessa obediently wrapped the blanket around her and reached out to grab Lace's elbow. Okay, I'm ready, but I am not letting go. Lace laughed and patted Tessa's hand. I got you. Lace steered her toward the back far corner. This is the oldest section, my personal favorite, and the reason they call it Boot Hill. Owen's Station was the wild, wild west back then. Life was hard, and for the most part, short. Most people died quickly, with their boots on. She used a small flashlight to illuminate the old stone slabs and waited for Tessa's reaction. Are these for real? Yes, they're for real, but they're so silly. They're not silly. Some of them just say unknown. There were a lot of people coming and going back then, and it's not like people carried driver's license. The other ones, well, they're just straightforward. Lace read, Sam Brown, shot dead in center of town, 1852 to 1878. Tessa laughed. That is too silly. They're like morbid poems. She read another. Here lies Ernest Blake. You made a big mistake. Lace snort of laugh snort. She sort of laugh snorted. It didn't sound silly. It did sound silly when Tessa read it. She kept going too. Bill Cap Light lost his last fight. Outlaw John Moore robbed his last store. 4 slugs from a 44. Oh my God, stop, Lace was laughing. That's not even funny. It's horrible. But Tessa was on a roll. Poor Roger McGraw, quick on the trigger, slow on the draw. Here lies Lucas Yeast. Pardon me for not rising. Lace's stomach hurt, and she had to wipe her eyes to see because she was crying so hard. Stop, please stop. Tessa turned to look at her. What was wrong with those people? She looked so confused. It just made Lace laugh even harder. Instead of answering the question, Lace took Tessa by the shoulder, turned her around, and led her back to the fire. She was still laughing as she put the blanket on Tessa's lap and put another piece of wood on and took her seat in the middle of another camp chair. Oh my God. She was still trying to catch her breath. I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. Tessa looked amused, but still confused. Seriously, Lace, what the hell? I've never seen anything like this before. Are those tombstones for real? 100%. Lace had finally pulled herself together. Tessa shook her head. This is all so weird, Lace. This town, this cemetery. I mean, who writes jokes on headstones? It's gallows humor, I guess. It's what helped people back then deal with it all. Lace paused, trying to remember all the stories she had been told. You could just get shot for looking at the wrong person the wrong way, or because someone thought you were cheating at the poker table, or because you fell for someone else's girl. And there weren't many consequences, not legal ones anyway. You had to do something really terrible for the law to get involved. Something really terrible? You mean more terrible than shooting someone because they fell in love with the wrong girl? Lace shrugged. Yeah, I guess. Like robbing a bank or a stagecoach. Tessa clicked her tongue. In other words, doing something that hurt the rich and powerful. Exactly. Tessa shook her head and tucked the blanket tighter around her. I'm glad I wasn't around back then. I don't know, Lace grinned and shifted her chair to look at Tessa. I can see you as Calamity Jane. All rough and tumble, fighting hard, holding your own. The firelight danced across Tessa's cheek until Tessa turned to look at her, and then the light started dancing in those eyes, too. No, no, no. I think you would definitely be Calamity. Lace, you already have the costume for it, right? Tessa's face was soft, except for the little smile lines that started at her eyes. I can just see you, tough but tender, smarter than all the men in town, and funny as hell, living life the way you always wanted to live it, swaggering through town, dazzling all the ladies. Lace did not know what was happening. She quickly looked around to see if maybe Tessa was talking to somebody else, but when she glanced back, Tessa was still looking at her. Tessa looked fine, normal, but Lace could hear her own heart beating. She had to say something before Tessa wondered what the hell was wrong with her. She managed to sniff out a laugh and a jokey voice. Why, thank you kindly, ma'am. I bet you say that to all the... Nope, Tessa inserted matter-of-factly. Just you.
Thank you for sharing that scene. What was it about that scene that made you want to share it?
Oh, well, I think it's a pivotal moment in the story. Tessa is really vulnerable in this, which I don't think Lace was ready for. And Lace starts seeing Tessa in a different way, and that really throws her off balance. And so I think it gives a really nice look at both those characters and shows the shift in that friends to lovers romance.
Thank you. Plus, it's funny.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Whiskey and Wine is available now. The link is in the chat box. We're going to go to Elizabeth. Elizabeth Bradshaw is a late blooming lesbian living in Austin, Texas, with her wonderful partner and pet children. She works as a high school teacher by day and writer and TV watcher at night. Her debut novel, Good Christian Girls, comes out February 13th. Congratulations on your first novel. Elizabeth, tell us about the scene you're going to read for us, and then jump right in.
Will do. So this is set at a girls' Christian camp. And this is one of the early on interactions between the two protagonists, kind of figuring out what each other's deal is. And they're on a zipline tower during this conversation. That's important to know. Okay, let me just jump right in. Also, I apologize for I'm also congested, so I feel you on flu season. Why are you at Camp Lavender? Lacey asked. I shrugged. Because I have to be, I said, trying to sound as dismissive as possible. Lacey nodded. Want to sit? Sure. Okay, I just need to reattach us to the zipline cables. These don't reach. Wait, but then if I fall, I'll shoot across to the other side. Lacey let out a short sigh. I suspected I was annoying her again. Look, I'll just hook us into the same one. Will that make you feel better? I thought to myself that it would not, but I said nothing. Lacey hooked herself in and sat down at the edge of the platform with her legs dangling over the side. I walked closer to Lacey, hoping that she wouldn't notice the distinct tremor of my limbs. You'll have to sit close so I can hook you in. This cable can't reach. Right. Unhook it, sit down, and then I'll hook you back up. But just unhook it and then grab my hand. I won't let you fall. Lacey watched me fumble with a carabiner. I finally unhooked myself and immediately sat down, inching myself slowly toward Lacey and the edge of the tower. A wave of nausea overtook me, and I reached out and grabbed Lacey's hand. Lacey gripped my hand tightly, almost reassuringly, and I was surprised by the strength of her grasp. In order for Lacey to clip me onto the same cable, I had to sit close enough that I could feel the pressure of Lacey's thigh against mine. I should have brought the electroscope with me, I said mostly to myself, but I'll need something to secure it with. Like what? Well, preferably I would screw it in, but if I'm going to have to remove it, I could really just use duct tape. Do you think you could bring me back here? Sure, Lacey laughed. So, I said, squinting out at the enormous field in front of us, you live here. Yep, right over there. Lacey pointed toward what I figured to be west. I could see a one-story house separate from all the other cabins. I thought privately that it must be lonely to live in that house in the fall, winter, and spring when all the other cabins were empty. Where do you go to school? Lacey's finger did not move. I don't. What? I mean, I do school. I just don't go to school. Who teaches you? Well, technically my mom teaches me, but at this point I mostly just teach myself. My eyes widened. You must have met a homeschooled person before, Lacey said, an icy tone in her voice. Well, yeah, but all the homeschoolers I've met are antisocial freaks? I was going to say a bit awkward. Lacey's laugh had a bitter edge in it that did not escape me. 100 questions raced through my brain. Was she homeschooled for religious reasons, or just because her parents ran this camp in the middle of nowhere, East Texas? Had it always been this way, or did they pull her out of school at some point? Did she get the same education as everyone else, or follow some special curriculum? I stole a glance at Lacey, who was gazing into the middle distance with an unreadable expression. Before I could pick one of my burning questions, Lacey said, "Did you want to go to science camp?" Yeah. What happened? I shrugged. My aunt decided I should go here instead. Are you nervous? Lacey asked. What? No, about what? About falling. I laughed nervously. A little, I admitted. Lacey put an arm around my shoulder. Thanks, I said quietly, wondering if she could feel the pounding of my heart through my sweatshirt. Do you know the best way to overcome the fear of falling? Lacey asked, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. What? I felt Lacey's hand tighten around my shoulder. A breathless moment passed. You jump. Before I could take the words in, Lacey wrapped her other arm around me and pushed us both off the edge of the platform and into the dark. That's it.
Thank you, Elizabeth. This is a young adult book, and as a formerly good Christian girl, I'm super excited about it. What was it about that particular scene that made you want to share it with us?
Yeah, I think it just kind of really captures the overall themes of the book, like being at summer camp, talking about education and religion. One of them's more into science, one of them is more into religion. It becomes sort of like a debate that they have throughout the book. And it kind of just sets the scene for that. Plus, like the zip lining is a fun part of the camp story. I like to have a lot of different little camp moments in the book.
Did you go to camp as a kid?
I sure did. I sure did go to Christian camp.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Your debut novel is due to be released. Remind me again?
February 13th. It's coming up.
February 13th. Fantastic. All right. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your best scenes. That was super fun. We have just a couple of minutes, really, to open up the chat to questions. So thank you, everybody, for being with us. If you can't see us all, I would encourage you to set your screen to gallery view at this point so you can see everybody on your screen. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box and I'll do my best to pay attention there. I'm wondering, a quick question for all of you. Do you ever sort of get stuck when you're writing a scene? You know, just kind of, I don't know, maybe like a mini writer's block moment or something. And what do you do? What do you do to get unstuck? What do you do to get those creative juices flowing? Suzie, let's start with you.
Okay. Yeah, I think all of us as writers at some point get stuck in a scene or two. Usually what I do is I just, if it's really a bad block that I have, I'll usually just kind of put things down and go for a walk, or maybe take another scene and write it for a little while, and then it'll come back to me. So you can usually get through it, but yeah, it can be hard sometimes to do that, to try
Just
to
kind of get stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Go for a walk. Joy,
Pretty
what do
much
you
the
do?
same thing. I may set the whole thing aside. I may jump ahead and write a different scene. I may start some dialogue with just a sentence or a word and see where that takes me. But it definitely happens.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just kind of leave the scene to the side and just start a conversation and see what the characters do. I did think you were going to say something about creating new recipes for how to use figs.
No, you just eat them fresh. Don't ruin cooking.
Glenn, how about you? What do you do when you feel stuck?
Well, apart from cursing in my native tongue, I think I sometimes turn to writing some of my fan fiction, to just change gears completely. And then when I can come back to my scene, something seems very obvious often. So that usually helps to just set your mind on a completely different track. So.
I love that you start swearing in your native tongue. Are you writing in English, or are you writing?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I did try to write some in Swedish not that long ago to see if I still could. And my friends who wrote it said, Gun, you have some Americanisms when you write.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. That's amazing. That's amazing to be able to do that. Tana, what do you do when you are feeling stuck?
Well, I think one of the nice things I like about writing with a writing partner is we'll have conversation. You know, like what is happening here, and why is the character doing this or not doing something? Explain. We'll have dialogue about what's happening, and that often will get me unstuck. But like a lot of you have said, you know, just kind of put it down for a minute, take a coffee break, give a little bit of space so that you can kind of clear your head instead of just trying to hammer away at a moment when it's not coming.
Thank you. It's usually me that's stuck, not you. But we have a question in the chat box specifically for Gunn. For the sake of all our trans siblings in the audience, including her daughter, can you teach us how to say blue shark in Swedish?
Blue shark?
Yes.
Blå haj.
Thank you. There you go. I think you could also type it in the chat box.
I can
Elizabeth, how about
do
you?
that.
Do you ever have you had the experience of kind of getting stuck? What do you do to get out of that moment?
Definitely. When I get stuck, I will either walk away for a little bit, or I will just kind of type, I'll finish this scene later. This is what needs to happen in it, and then I'll move on to something else. If I'm in the flow and I'm stuck chronologically, I'll just write blah blah blah, come back to this later, and I'll highlight it so that I see it later, and then kind of just keep going to something else that I'm feeling more into at the moment.
Oh, I appreciate that. I cannot move on until it's done and it's right. It is very annoying to my writing partner.
Frustrating.
It is.
Thank you. Let's see. Raven, the proper way to pronounce the species of IKEA shark that eats transphobes. This must be a Swedish conversation, Gun. So I'll leave that to you. I think we might be at time. There's a question, did we ever get an answer on how many fig trees Joy actually has? We did not, Tristan. Do you have any idea, Joy?
I have about 40 that I've had for the last, that I've collected over the last like 3 or 4 years, but I've also got at least that many that I'm starting. You grow them literally from sticks so I've got at least that many going, starting new ones, which I will probably keep maybe 10 of those and give and sell the rest. But most of them are in the garage. They go dormant and they need to be protected. I'm in Rochester, New York, so they need to be protected from the weather. So there's 4 in the ground wrapped up and the rest are in the garage.
Wow. That is amazing. Have figs ever played a role in one of your novels?
Yes, the last one that just came out in this month. I think it's the flu. The name is escaping me.
Well, you've written so many.
Book. Letters from Sarah. That's the name of the book. And one of the characters grows some fig trees from cuttings because her grandmother used to grow figs.
And the name of that book is Letters from Sarah.
Letters from Sarah. And it is
Thank you.
available now. And I'll read from that tomorrow if anybody is around at 6 o'clock.
Excellent. Sandy has been putting the links to all of the books that you've heard readings from today in the chat box. Please check them all out. All of them, with the exception of Elizabeth's book, which is coming out in February. All of the other books are available now at the Bold Strokes website. It has been delightful to be with you all today. Thank you to our authors for reading from their best scenes from their books today. Stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up in the Bookathon this weekend. Tana and I will be, I'll be reading actually on a panel that Tana's facilitating tomorrow morning actually at the same time. It's been great to be with you. Thanks a lot. And thanks to Bold Strokes and thanks to Sandy for managing our experience here today. Take care, everybody.
Bye.